Hi there, and welcome to another edition of the Israel-Palestine Report. And today we're going to be talking about the death of the initiative for Saudi normalization. We talked about this a bit yesterday and hinted in that direction, but there have since been developments that much more firmly bury this initiative. So a story came out in Reuters today and the headline was that the United States has agreed to give Saudi Arabia civilian nuclear power without demanding normalization with Israel. The reason that matters is because that was one of the major elements of leverage that Trump had over Saudi Arabia to get them to normalize, and one that President Biden had used repeatedly to try to get Saudi Arabia to agree to normalization. So the deal that was brewing under Biden and never came to fruition was that the United States would offer Saudi Arabia a full military alliance, uh, allow it to and facilitate civilian nuclear capability for Saudi Arabia and send it a good amount of arms. And in exchange, Israel would move towards a Palestinian state and end the war in Gaza. Of course, that never happened. And over the last few months, there's been a movement away from normalization on the part of Saudi Arabia. Um, the desire that Saudi Arabia had for security guarantees from the United States was located in a certain time and space when tensions between Iran and Saudi Arabia were at a very high point, a lot of it due to the war in Yemen, but also due to the war in Syria. Since then, there's been a thawing of relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia. In fact, they're normalizing instead of normalizing with Israel. And that's been beneficial to Saudi Arabia in the conflict in Yemen, which, while it continues, has not um, impinged on the sovereignty of Saudi Arabia in the same way, most likely because of some sort of tacit agreement between Iran and Saudi Arabia over that. The war in Syria has also ended with a decisive Saudi victory, or a victory by Saudi proxies, along with Turkey. So all that places Saudi Arabia in a much better position with Iran. They no longer need that security guarantee from the United States in the way that they have. The Saudi defense minister just visited Tehran earlier this month. Their relationship is arguably better right now than Saudi relationship with um, with Israel. In addition, the Saudis have told Iran, as part of these talks, that they would not allow their territory to be used by the US military for any operation against Tehran. So they're moving in a different direction of diplomatic guarantees. And that's also why they're very supportive of talks between the United States and Iran over the potential Iranian nuclear arms deal, which gives it a much greater chance of succeeding. Another reason that the defense treaty was abandoned is because it probably wouldn't pass in Congress. Um, Lindsey Graham said that no treaty would pass unless there was full Israeli normalization involved. And full Israeli normalization is, of course, very unlikely because Israel refuses to move towards a Palestinian state and refuses to end the war in Gaza. And of course, the war in Gaza has taken a massive toll on Israel's standing in the Arab world, which was already terrible, but it's gotten much, much worse. When Israel is being faced with charges in the ICC and the ICJ, being accused of genocide, committing all these war crimes, on Al Jazeera and Al Arabiya, pictures come in every night of Palestinian children being killed. The idea of normalizing with Israel now seems like political suicide for Saudi Arabia. It would do terrible things for their standing domestically and for their standing in the Arab world. So it's just not very relevant anymore. And of course, it didn't help that Netanyahu said that a Palestinian state could be created in Saudi Arabia. They did not like that joke. that harmed relations with Saudi Arabia, and it never really recovered. Now, Saudi Arabia is also going to be getting um, $100 billion in arms aid. And in exchange, they're offering $600 billion of investment in the United States, which Trump has said he hopes they will round up to 1 trillion, the art of the deal, and all that. And of course, in the past, Saudi Arabia has invested 2 billion in a firm owned by Jared Kushner, and there's plans to build 2 Trump towers in Jeddah and Riyadh. So the transactional nature of Trump's foreign policy strikes yet again. And Israel has gotten warning on this. A high-ranking American official met with the Israeli hostage families, Channel 12 reported, and this official told them, quote, until today, it was the hostages who paid the price for not ending the war, but now the price will be much higher for all of Israel. President Trump is determined to reach a consequential deal with Saudi Arabia, even without Israeli involvement. The ceasefire with the Houthis is just a promo, and if Israel doesn't wise up, the deal of the millennium will go on without it. We hope Israel will get on board this historical train which is leaving, but the United States will not wait at the station, end quote. And indeed, by the time the hostage families were told this, that train had arguably left. Now, there's still some problems to work out in this deal. One of the sources that leaked the story to Reuters said the kingdom was still not willing to sign what they call a 123 agreement, which is an agreement that would prevent enrichment or reprocessing of plutonium made in reactors. And those are 2 routes that have the potential to culminate in nuclear weapons. So Saudi Arabia is insisting on scheme for their nuclear power that would still allow it to create nuclear weapons if needed. And that's no accident. I don't think Saudi Arabia has any plans to create nuclear weapons right now, but they're waiting to see what happens with Iranian nuclear weapons, and they want the ability, or at least the threat, the potential threat to develop nuclear weapons if Iran does. So what MBS wants is a program that's civilian with the ability to convert it into a nuclear quickly if needed as leverage over Saudi Arabia. It looks like Saudi Arabia will get this. We're talking about a very transactional Trump administration that's very beholden to Saudi Arabia. It seems highly unlikely that they're going to cause too many problems with this. Maybe some face-saving measures will be included. The bottom line is this. Israel missed a historical opportunity to normalize with Saudi Arabia. That train has left the station and is not coming back. Saudi Arabia is not interested in it anymore. Trump is not particularly interested in it anymore. And Israel is not willing to do the minimum to allow it to happen. So I am willing to declare that initiative, which never had too much of a chance to begin with, is now dead. And it's a major blow to Israel's attempts to be um, part of the Middle East, which seemed so close to fruition before October 7th, but that seems like a completely different world now. Okay, so if you like what I do here, consider supporting me on Patreon, consider supporting me on Substack, listen to my History of the Land of Israel podcast. I'll be coming out with a new episode today or tomorrow, and I will see you here again very soon.